Okay. So Janice got Gracie. Now Gracie's daddy was a world champion. Come here, Gracie. Come here, Gracie. And they were going to breed her, so when she was born, come here, honey. When she was born, she, yeah, you the baby. She was such good shape that, and now she needs a haircut, that the breeder kept her segregated in a barn by herself. So the first 12 weeks of her life, she didn't have any interaction. She didn't know what grass felt like. The lady fed her every day, and she said, I have to totally break her spirit, where she's addicted to me. That way she'll do the walk, she'll prance around the ring, she'll do the strutting, because she'll be praise-oriented. And psychologically, she hurt the little girl here. And the little girl has to be around daddy all the time. So what was damaged as a baby, as a child, in this dog, is a good example of what happens to all of us. You love your daddy? Huh? You want to sit up here with me? Oh, she has to be there. She'll sit there all day long. If I pet her all day long, she'll be sitting there. Oh, you put me down. Can you pet me again? All right, let's go. Let you go back to mommy over there. There you go. So, you have to realize, what did my addiction cost me? It cost me closeness to my wife. It cost me closeness to my kids. They grew up not knowing who I was, other than I was the guy that paid for stuff for them to go to Europe, or them to have new cars, or whatever the case might be. But they didn't have me. And emotionally, I hurt my kids. Emotionally, I'm responsible for putting distance in between me and my wife. Now, you can't be gone for 30 years and expect to stay married. It isn't going to happen. So, you have to look in the mirror as you're doing your meditations every day and say, this addiction cost me my business, cost me my family, cost me everything. I'm not going to go back to being addicted. And when you realize what it cost you, you put it down on paper. You take that paper and you stick it on the wall in the bathroom. So when you brush your teeth, you're like, no, not going back. No, I'm not going back. I think I can do better. The past of my life is not going to define my future. I will fall in love. I will be successful in a different business. And I will do these things because I know why. Why? You have to find the reason in your life to change. Something you love more than you love yourself. Because when you're addicted, you'll lie to yourself. Oh, no, I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for them. Or no, I don't have a problem drinking. Oh, I don't have a problem gambling at the track. You will argue, you will fuss, you will take all your anger out, and if you lose money at the track, you'll come home and take it out on your wife, so she's mad at you. Well, I work hard, and I deserve to. See, you try to lie about, you can't lie to yourself, so sometime along the line, you have to just fess up and say, I got a problem. And if I don't get rid of my addiction to work, what am I going to be? I'm going to be on the road for the rest of my life. That's not living. If you're a workaholic, you're working to die. Guess what? It's only pieces of paper. And when you die, you can't take it with you. So, finding your why. I went through the most horrible divorce since Johnny Carson. I had a friend who had one of my attorney's sisters, and I knew her for years and years. I went out to talk about some real estate. She's one of the best realtors in Louisville. And when I went home back to Cleveland, she had paid for dinner. Nobody had bought me dinner in my whole life, but maybe my mom or father. And I'm like, no, because I always bought everything. I bought tickets for the Super Bowl for people. I bought Rolex watches and gave them away. I bought cars. And I was not used to anybody doing that. She said, oh no, you sent me and my brother to Europe with your points a few years ago, so I've known you a long time, Ronnie, it's okay. And I wasn't used to that. So on the way home, I'm like, wow, that's a different feeling, receiving a gift. I was always the guy that everybody got gifts from, but I didn't receive them. I didn't know how to do that. And so, long story short, I came back a couple of weeks later to talk to her about her birthday. 3 days later, when I left Louisville, I sent flowers and said, thank you for the meal. She called me up and said, how did you know it's my birthday? I said, I didn't have a clue. I didn't remember. And about 40 days later, I had an argument with God. It's like, I'm afraid to ever care anymore. Everybody I've ever cared about has used me, stole from me. I mean, it's not my own fault that I had people in the family steal from me and I didn't put them in jail. It's my own fault. But I tried to appease my mother-in-law. I tried to appease my wife. I tried to appease people because I was so addicted to what I did. I could make more money, but I did not rock the boat on things like that because I was always gone. And people, if you show weakness of any type, they'll take advantage of you. Within a few months, I had an argument with God, and I had fell in love with Mila. Shortly thereafter, a few months later, I'm talking to her every night from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm sending her flowers. She goes to Greece. I went and jumped out of an airplane to find out if my heart would beat, find out if I was alive. Didn't make me beat. When she came back home and called me, my heart beat like crazy. And I took her to New York. I came down to Louisville and said, I'm going to go show you a miracle. And I took her to New York for a one-day trip, and she thought we were going to go to Lexington, Kentucky. And in New York, we went to 8 or 9 places. At the end of the day, I took her to Bryant Park. And I said, Mila, get out of the car, because soon I have to take you home. Same day we got to New York, 10 hours later, 11 hours later, we're getting ready to go back on the airplane. And I said, the miracle's in the park. I had a suit on, she was dressed nicely. I went over to a big tree and I said, close your eyes. I promised you to see the world's greatest miracle. And you will. And that's what I told her. I said, her eyes are closed. And I said, there's about 8 billion people on the earth, and God made your DNA different than anyone else's. You're special. Your heart beats 100,000 times a day without you even thinking about it, because you're special. Over 2,000 gallons of blood goes through your veins every day without you thinking about it. Your brain does a billion computations every second. And I told her many more things about her body. And I took a compact out of my pocket. I held it in front of her face, a mirror. And I said, open your eyes to see the world's greatest miracle. And she seen herself and she started crying. And she said, I love you too. And I said, thank you for saving my life. And since I found my why, I was planning for 2 years, what do I do next? And it was to teach my knowledge to the world. So the biggest way to get out of any addiction is the motivation. What you care about more than you care about your own feelings or your life or yourself. Find your why. Once you do that, you'll have your way home. This is the end of part 1. Part 2, part 3 on YouTube. Part 1 for the podcast. And we'll be back for part 2 of addictions in just a little bit.